What's good, y'all? It's your Millionaire Bestie. Today is the day. Today's the vision board party of 2026. Setting shit up, still getting in setup mode. Been up since 4:30 this morning, getting everything set up for the attendees. Granted, it's a one-man show, but I'm getting it done. So at the end of the day got to end. It's going to be an amazing event. Can't wait. I'm excited for the people. I'm excited for the vision. And most importantly, I'm actually excited for January 2027, when these individuals can come back and say exactly what the fuck they put on that board has come to fruition. Later, y'all. Here on the panel. There can only be 3 people per table, and then we'll all take the 4th seat. Webinar ID. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Good. Come on, man. Welcome, Ned. All right. Boy, people just do so much. I told him, I said, don't even worry. I said, don't even worry about it. You'll be back. You'll be back.
Yeah. Hey, girl. What's up? You laugh.
I know. What's going on, love?
Hey, baby. How you doing?
Let me see if Chicago. I need to make sure that it's correct.
Oh, I mean, I just drink. I'm not a...
Oh, shit. Get away from me. Get out.
You just gave me that I drink.
Damn, I'm not drinking. Well, I guess I can taste it, huh? No, I'm looking for a taste. No. Can't show y'all the secret weapon. If it's going to be restarted, rejoin it in 5 minutes. I need to end the webinar so I can enable the chat box so you guys will be able to chat. So give me 1 hot second, 5 minutes to log right back in. You're not going to miss anything on this end. But I sent it in the text. So was everybody fine with their introduction? I mean, I want to make sure I didn't leave anything off. Or anybody.
Oh, wait, you said? Yeah, because I didn't see anything. I would say I didn't see anything.
No, not a specific introduction. What I mean by that is on your name.
You just said what we did. And
Yes. Yeah.
It was just a little.
I did not. I'm being honest.
Pull up the group text because it's not. I purposely didn't put it on here. I at least want y'all to know what the flow of what the flow of it was gonna be. So it'll be this portion.
The intro, you just want us to tell us who we were at the beginning.
Yes. And then they'll be able to curate their. They're going to start to curate their boards after that, based on one aspect of what they need to be looking for. Then we'll come back, and then it's who we are now. Once we say who we are now on that following act, then that's when they'll be able to go in. That's when you can start going to that magazine, looking for the Rolls Royce, looking for the G-Wagon, looking for all that other kind of shit. So that'll be in a different act. And then the last act will be them actually presenting, or everybody presenting your board. I do encourage everybody to actually do your board, just because I live off mine. If y'all done seen mine, I literally live off my board. So that's it. Let's enjoy it. Have fun. But it seems like I know y'all know how to do that any goddamn way. But have fun. I'm going to skip to the Act 3, which is accountability and ownership. I am going to pick some of you and or all of you, depending on how much time we have, to actually come up and present your vision boards at the end. So make sure what you put on there, it makes sense to you and you're able to actually explain whatever it is. Start by introducing my amazing panelists. I'm going to start from left and work myself right. And what we're going to do, we're going to give you guys who we were when we first started. Introducing Miss Roxell Richards. Would you like to stand at the work the room?
Hi, you guys. My name is Attorney Roxell Richards. I am a personal injury and trials lawyer here in Houston, Texas, and I practice in California as well as any state in the United States where I represent injured people. Where I started, Debbie.
Yeah, you skipped mine. We don't want to know who you are right now.
Where I started. Well, they need to know who I am.
No, they don't. They're gonna figure that out.
Where I started, I'm not sure how far back you want me to go in my journey, but I can say the person that I am today was created out of a survival story. My dad was very special. He was like ahead of his time. So we all believe in giving back to the community. We believe in uplifting the Black race. But my dad, being that he was ahead of his time, he worked really hard in developing Enron and developing software, and really propelling the company to another level. That was all taken away. He worked 30-some years for Enron and woke up one day and everything's gone. So we lost everything. So from that, I knew I was never gonna work for somebody. I knew I was never gonna do that. I didn't know how it was gonna happen, but I just remember not having an advocate. I remember my dad not having a place to go to because we knew what happened was wrong, but there was no lawyer that could advocate. There was not anybody that could say, this is wrong. I started my business because I'm a product of Enron. I'm an Enron baby. I came from a middle-class family. My parents worked really hard. They instilled in all of us education. So we all are educated. My dad instilled in us entrepreneurship. So we all have some sort of entrepreneurship spirit in us.
Okay, so my name is Latrice, and who I were, a little bit different from Roxell. I didn't see any success growing up as far as entrepreneurship and things like that. So I was a little Black girl from the east side of San Antonio, Texas. If you don't know anything about San Antonio, I went to like what you would call the East Side High. If you know anything about Lean on Me, I went to the worst high school in San Antonio. I was always told, just because of the kind of friend circle I kept growing up, that I wasn't gonna be too much of anything. I was gonna be young, barefoot and pregnant, kind of. And my parents got divorced pretty early on, and so I lived with my mom. My dad was still very involved, but I did live with just my mom. I am trying to change the trajectory of my family because I was in the first to graduate from college. So I went back, graduated, got my master's degree, and then I moved to Houston. I was like, if you know anything about San Antonio, don't really look like us. And I felt like I was stuck. I was still stuck with the same people that I went to high school with that now was the person they thought I was gonna be. Kids, no job, just doing, and so I said I had to leave. So I packed up my sword one day, and my family was like, you gonna do what? You don't even know nobody there. I said, well, I'm gonna be there. I packed up my son when he was 5, and just me and him, and we moved to Houston. I knew one person here, which is my best friend, but I didn't care. I was able to transfer my job with the state to an office here, and we moved to Houston. It was just me and him. I kept working. I then met my now husband, just on the fly. And I met my husband, and then we decided to move to Rosenberg. Again, my son was about 6 then. And I didn't see any childcare centers and I'm not going to tell my whole story, but, I didn't see any childcare centers for my son that I would have sent him to at that time. I was still a parole officer, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is a growing community. Why don't they have any childcare centers? And at that moment, I was already studying for the LSAT because I was getting ready to either be an FBI agent or go to law school. Those were the 2 things that I was working toward at that moment. And a light bulb moment went off. And God said, well, open one. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. I don't like kids. I'm not doing that. And it just kept tugging at me. So I started talking to my husband. I started talking to my family. And besides my husband, everybody thought I was crazy. Again, the first person to graduate college, the first person to have a career, and you gonna quit your career to babysit kids? Like, that's crazy. I was just telling somebody that today. And if I would have listened to them at that moment, I would have been standing here today.
I am Darren Jones. I am your Millionaire Bestie. However, I started from what a lot of people would call humble beginnings. So my mother was she wasn't single when she had me, like so many of the ladies are not. So I was born into a 2-parent household for a very, very limited time. My mother decided to have my father buy all branding furniture And then he went to work one day, and she had my uncles come in the little house and left. Hey, that's cute. I respect her. So from there, I was the first grandchild, first nephew. So some may have called spoiled back in the day. My mother was on Section 8 county. We had food stamps and all that jazz, right? The one thing that I, till this day, give my mother a lot of credit is she did not put her struggles on us. When I look back and I was old enough to understand what was going on, we was broke. I didn't really know that back then because to me, we were rich. You couldn't tell me we were rich when I was a child. However, looking back on some of the things like when Rent-A-Center was knocking on the door to come get the washer and dryer, and my mother answered the door and they asked for her by name, and she told them people that she was the housekeeper and that she wasn't here. And I remembered that as a kid. And when I got older, I think I'm maybe in my early 20s, I had to ask her about that. She said, boy, there was some people coming to get their washer and dryer, and I had to make sure I bought some more loads. I remember going downstairs in our townhouse, my backpack on, me, my brother, and my sister, and open the garage door, the car is gone, and she yelling at somebody, get in the car, and we standing there like, we can't. And she cussing us out, and then she get down there to drive, just like, no, what the hell? And I vividly remember her calling the police and filed a police report and everything. Well, guess what? The damn car was not stolen, it was revoked one too. I remember getting on the bus, going to H&R Block. In the rain. I didn't know what H&R Block was back then, but I vividly remember going to H&R Block at least 2 to 3 times. I remember it was raining. I remember she kept calling them. I remember she ended up getting some money from them. I remember going to the Honda dealership after she got the money and getting the base model burgundy 4-door Honda Accord DX with the gray interior. I remember all of these things as a child, right? However, it never gave the energy of we're struggling. It never gave the energy of we're broke. As a kid, I would be going with whatever. I was just going with the flow of what it was. It was presented well and everything was amazing. However, looking back at all of that, we clearly were impoverished. We had Section 8, we had county, we had food stamps. Clearly qualified. Outside of that, graduated high school, went to college for a semester. Knew college was for me when I enrolled in it. However, I did learn a few things in business class. Probably 2 things I remember to this day: location, and always count your own money. Anything outside of that, couldn't tell you what that man was talking about. It's my path to class with A, and it was what it was. I read a book, I passed the test. I then went into corporate America. One thing my mother tells everybody is Darren's been working since he was 14. I've always had a check. I was always looking for a job. I always had my resume circulating out there. If I didn't like the way you treated me when I was at work, don't worry about it. I won't be here too much longer. I was never one of those employees that went to work and complained, but my co-worker said you couldn't do shit about it, so what am I complaining to you about? I gave my supervisors my feedback on what I want to make my position better. You either did it or you didn't. If you didn't, I'm out. If you did, I'd stay. So did that. Worked my 9 to 5 for many years, sat in the traffic for an hour a day each way, did all the basic shit that people do this day and age when life is just normal, which is go to work, come home, make sure you watch your TV shows that's on at a certain time, go work out, hang out with your friends, go to happy hour, go to Chili's, take the basic trip to Miami or Vegas. I did all of those things. Back when that's, and I said basic because that's normal life for anybody that's just working a regular job.
Hi guys, Bradshaw. All right, okay, so I'm just gonna go for the beginning. I am from New York, born and raised, but I'm Jamaican. My grandparents who came to the States to help raise us, literally moved in the home next to ours to raise us. So that's when people like, you know, if you in that whole world of Jamaicans, they'd be like, you ain't really Jamaican, but my grandparents really came here to raise us. So I will say for me, born and raised in New York, a lot of things. I would say middle class, but maybe a little above that, especially in the community we were in. My my father was older than my mom. She was like about 15 years younger than my father. So he was a businessman, but I feel like it was a little hard situations as far as I feel like he took advantages of my mom, who was way younger than him and didn't know anything. So he got her to the suburbs and she didn't know anybody. So I'm just happy my grandparents came and moved, to help her out. So I will say when starting off, my sister and I, then came my brother, we were raised pretty well as far as like financially, right? What we had and everything. But there was so much trauma because of things that my father did. And I think that's what made me who I am, because I saw so much trauma. I saw the weakest in my mother, and I said, I cannot be like that, right? So I feel like my younger days was always like, I have to figure out, even at young, I remember being like 5 and 6 years old, like, I cannot do this. I saw what my mom was going through, and I was like, I'm never gonna be like that. So that was like, I think of what the fight in me. So immediately I was, my mom put me in dance, which I'm so thankful for. And she put my sister and myself in dance. And I remember I was 4.5 years old when she put me in dance. And I just took to it. I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm doing. My sister quit. She quit like 5 years and came back, but I always stung with it. I even remember having chicken pox. And I was so sick. And my mom was like, you can't do this. So it was the end where I wasn't contagious anymore. And she was like, no. I was like, no, I'm going to the recital. I'm going to do my dance. I'm going to do that. So they, I see videos of me when I like 4.5, I'm performing. So I stuck with it, but I always knew like that was my talent. Like I was all about the arts, but I just knew that was going to get me to be out of the situation or never be in the situation my mother was in.
My name is Lee McGee. And just a little bit of my backstory. I'm a very rare native Houstonian. There's not a whole lot of us floating around. I was born and raised in Houston on the northeast side, Cashmere Gardens, 5th Ward, Hardest Street. My mom was single. I'm the product of infidelity, so I didn't meet my dad until I was 33. And I had to find him on my own, and when I finally did find him, he was living 5 miles away from me, but I didn't know that. But my mom did good, and like Darren said, I thought we was rich. My mom was a housekeeper. She worked for very wealthy people. She would take me to work with her, and that's how I kind of just started getting into watching her fold underwear, make beds, vacuum. So I would go to work with my mom every day in the summers and help her clean up from 5 years old to like 15 years old. But she was on everything, but she raised us as the best she could. She took care of us. Like I said, I thought we was rich. I wore Guess, every day, back in the day, the 80s, and ended up getting pregnant very young. I was 16 when I had my first child. And I had big dreams and hopes of going to college and doing all this other stuff, but I had to go to work and I had to take care of that baby. So I got my first job at Whataburger. I never flipped burgers, I just sold the burgers. I worked in the front counter selling burgers, and then from that point I decided to go. I got on everything that Darren's mom was on. If the government was giving it, I was getting it. Housing, food stamps, Medicaid, the free light bill, the free phone bill. I mean, what else? Everything, even the free education, So Bush basically said in 95, if you don't go to school, you're going to get kicked off the system in 5 years. And my neighbor was like, well, I'll just have another baby. And I'm like, girl, you just want to have another baby? And I would be at HEB. Before it was the HEB it is now, it was called HEB Pantry Foods. If the floor was concrete in there, everything was in boxes. And I would walk to the store because I didn't have no car with my baby, that's who was 4. And I would watch women write checks for their groceries. Like $156 for groceries. And here I am, I get a check for $163 a month. And my food stamps was $224 a month. So I couldn't fathom. I couldn't fathom ever being under that situation. How can somebody make this type of money and not be on the system? And I strive for that. I wanted that for myself, but I didn't know how I was gonna get it. So I go back to the food stamp office. You gotta go every 6 months, get recertified. And so I go to the class and I show up at this school, and the guy tells me I was too ghetto to come to their school because I had on blue eyeliner and red lipstick. I had a honey blonde ponytail and a Chinese bang gel down to my forehead. Stop, like that was the star, man. I had that ponytail down on my forehead with my little Andre Genie ponytail. And he told me I was too ghetto, so I cussed him out. Because I was. And I left. So 6 months later, I'm back at the food stamp office. I gotta go watch that same video. It's a 15-minute video. They give you the same pamphlet. I go back to school. My hair is down. I ain't even got no makeup at this point, and I go sign up for the school. And the guy was like, okay, well, we gonna be starting the next class in 2 weeks. I'm saying, oh, so what, I ain't too ghetto to come? He was like, what you mean? I said, you just told me 6 months ago I was too ghetto, and I made him remember who I was. And come to find out, he knew my family from the neighborhood. So he looked out for me. I went to the school, got the little vocational degree. It was in Microsoft Word, made the honor roll and all that stuff every 6 weeks. And I got to my first job as a dispatcher at a water company. And I did that. And I just kept climbing, met my would-be husband. He worked in IT, and I always knew I wanted to do something with computer science. So going to work with him, helping him run cables, network computers together, all that kind of stuff. So I started pushing for that and going and getting more certifications, whatever free class I could get, whatever grants I could get. That's what I did. So I grew my career in IT. Then he got sick. We were divorced by this point, but he got sick, really, really sick, and child support just was gone. And I was like, okay, I made a little change now. I don't want the kids' lifestyle to suffer, so what can I do to supplement their income, my income, to keep my kids going? And that's the first half of my story.
So I come from poverty. I come from low income. I come from high school dropouts. I come from molestation. I come from a lot of negative things. Nothing that motivated me or ever made me think I would be successful when I grew up. So broken homes. My grandmother she had 10 kids and she raised like 50 grandchildren, and we all used to be in the same house. So that's where I come from, and you get the idea of how molestation takes the place when you have so many people in one house. I've been incarcerated over 20 times. I mean, I was a product of my own environment, and I come from drugs. I never did drugs, but my father was on drugs. My father was always incarcerated, so what I seen is what I repeated. Moving forward, my first child was when I was 21, and I started noticing that my children I didn't break the curse. I was doing the same thing that my family did, and I felt like if I continue, my children would follow my footsteps. So it took a while before I really grasped. Like, I had several jobs. First job was at 15. My mom left me when I was 15. So my first job was at McDonald's at 15, but I come from always having to defend myself. So a job just wasn't for me. I always got fired. It didn't last 3 months on a job. And I got to a point where I'm not gonna do the drugs, but so many my environment, everybody on drugs, I'll sell it. So I started selling drugs. I got caught up and went to the feds. When I went to the feds, by then I had 3 kids, and all my kids have different fathers, so they was everywhere. They wasn't together, and I was gone. And that's when I realized, like, I have so much hustle. I mean, I was born with hustle. I have hustle, and I just need to implement it into something that would never take me away from my kids again. So when I was released, I started doing different things, and I just decided to chase entrepreneurship. But where I come from, I'm no middle class, straight low class. Where I come from, the only great thing is my grandmother raised me, and she was very spiritual. So she taught me how to pray. She taught me about God, and that's probably more, knowing about God is probably more beneficial than education. And I'll just say that because I lived it. I'm still living it.
And it's a lot of things that I didn't see myself. I should be dead or still in jail by now, but I'm here. So it's a lot of things that I didn't see myself coming from or getting to, but because I know about God, I know how to pray, I know about faith, I made it. So I'm not your typical story. I come from the gutter and I made it out. So, and my motivations was my kids, because if I didn't turn things around for them, there would be what I was for almost 30 years, and that was like a complete failure. So I'm here, I'm successful, and if I could do it, anybody could do it.
So at the end of the day, we all literally started from what the world will look at as humble beginnings. We've all lived a life that most people just look at as normal at some point. I know Brooke says she comes from the low class, but at the end of the day, that the lifestyle she said is normal to a lot of people this day and age. Everybody's story up here, my story, is normal to a lot of people. My mother was the bougie auntie. You was bougie and broke. Congratulations, right? You made it look good, right? Roxell's parents, Enron, baby. That was top of the game back then. But then at the end of the day, everything was lost. Latrice, San Antonio, mother and father split. Things happened. She decided to leave and want better for herself. Amazing stories here. Jamaica, not my Jamaica. I learned something new today. From Jamaica, and then dealing with the traumas of having to fight as a child when you should be able to enjoy childhood. With Lee, coming from Cashmere Garden. You loved how you from Cashmere Garden. But I wanted to start our vision board off this way, because all too often people look at people like him, people like myself, and just automatically think, oh, they've always had, or oh, they was lucky, or that they got the hand-me-down, or it's fraudulent, or whatever, however people may paint the picture. Nobody really looks at or really knows what the real behind the scenes of it are. And at the end of the day, it's all ingrained in us at the end of the day because we lived it, but we don't present and move forward in today's day thinking about this every single day of, I have to be stuck in this. We've all grown from it, and now I made sure I picked this specific talents of individuals, one, because we're friends, but two, because I knew that these ladies came from what a lot of you guys at the audience, a lot of the individuals that are on the webinar, this is what they're either living in now or also came from as well. So I always want to make sure that anything that I do, I ensure that everybody knows that you're relatable. Nobody was just handed $1 million and said, go for it. We've all literally worked our ass off for what we have. And I did this also, this you guys can see, well, damn, if some of their stories some of the stories you heard up here, were they worse than what you guys went through as children coming up? So, some of you guys may have had some that were even worse than these stories. At the end of the day, it does not matter where you came from, but yet where you're going. Miss Roxell Richards here, high-powered attorney, entrepreneur, real estate investor. Latrice, entrepreneur, childcare brand authority, influencer, author. Miss Tamara, event coordinator, mega influencer, blogger. Miss Lee McGee, entrepreneur, national luxury organizing leader. And Miss Brooke Jones, serial entrepreneur, e-commerce brand leader, and a real estate investor. At the end of the day, you can follow them all on Instagram. Who they are now is who they are now. If you want to sit down and get to know who they are, by all means, we'll be at you guys' table. And then we'll go ahead and holler about our accolades later. Now, I want to explain, we're getting to starting to curate our vision board, so I'm going to give you guys the show of the room. My close friends group told me 2 years ago, why don't you do a vision board party and do it live? 3 years ago, why don't you do a vision board party and do it live? And I was like, no, these are serious to me. I want to actually do that. One of my friends back then actually heard the conversation I was having, and then whoop-de-doo looks up and she decided to have one. But I went to her vision board party, and actually, me and me went to the vision board party. And it was a party, right? It was a party and there was no vision. there was literally no vision boards executed. And I'm not even trying to be funny. It was actually sad when I saw it, because I'm one that actually intentionally and purposely does my vision boards, and that's what I wanted for everybody that was in the building. Now, it wasn't my event, so I didn't have any authority over it, but I remember it was more so of a get to know the social media influencers and get to know everybody online and drop your ass and pop your ass and twerk contest. It was that for $497 as the lowest ticket. Literally, nobody left out of there with a clear vision on a vision board, except for the 4 people whose table I went and sat at and made sure they did it, because I heard them complaining about when are we gonna start ordering our vision boards. And then also on the flip side of that, you heard the other ones complaining because they ran out of vision boards, so then they started cutting the vision boards in half and having to share a vision board. So imagine doing that for $500. But I remember sitting there like, I would never do this. I would never want anything like this. So cut to, I birthed the vision board event, and I told my close friends group last year, I'm going to do a vision board party in public for the public to actually come out and do. So I went around looking at venues, and I looked at a bunch of venues, looked at some beautiful venues, looked at some amazing venues. And then I came to this venue. I don't know how I stumbled across this venue. And I took a video of the venue, and I went home, and it came time, my assistant was on me, and she was like, you need to solidify a venue so that we can go ahead and start the plan what's gonna happen. And the next day, we sat at the table, I had them all laid out, and I got to this, I said, I think I'm getting ready to do this one. And she was like, you gonna do that one? And, no, that does not say you Millionaire Bestie. And I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. And that's exactly why I want the venue. Your Millionaire Bestie has done all the work already. Your Millionaire Bestie goes to ballrooms and has $1,000 plate dinners. He does all that. He's been to all the damn donation dinners and the charity shit, and seen all the big beautiful flowers and the big bouquets and all the curated designs behind the scenes and all that shit. And I've also been in a bunch of events, and I know Roxell and I and the ladies that came over for lunch the other day, we talked about these high ticket events that we had been to and then left out of there and didn't learn shit, or left out of there and felt like, okay, well, it added no value to it. So I literally picked this event because I felt like if you guys are here to create a vision. You don't need to be disrupted by any damn balloons. Y'all need to be disrupted by any ribbons and bows and none of that pretty shit. At the end of the day, everybody is here to actually curate their vision board. And I want you to completely focus on your vision. At this point, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not where I want to be right now. I got a whole lot of shit that I want to accomplish in 2026. I don't need nothing pretty around me distracting me. So this is the reason I actually chose this venue, because my thing was I want a safe, clean space where individuals can come in and concentrate. I want them to focus on everything that's on their table in front of them, what's in the magazines, what the conversation is. That's what I want. So that's why we ended up at this venue. In these books, once you go through these magazines, I want you to flip through them, and you're not looking for anything specific. When you flip through them, cut out anything that actually speaks to you. If you flip through there, don't in your head, oh, I'm looking for this, I need to find the big house. Do not do that. Literally flip through the different magazines and cut out anything that actually speaks to you. However it speaks to you. It might not even make sense. I'll give you an example of that. This picture here, the five little kids laying in the grass. It's the picture here, 5 kids laying in the grass. And those 5 kids laying in the grass, right? I remember I cut that picture out. It just spoke to me. At this point, this was 2017, so at this point I had 2 centers. So I saw that it had kids in it. I cut it out and I put it on the board, and I put it at the top of the board, and I put a number on top of all the children's heads. And at the time, I didn't know what it meant. I know I liked the picture. I didn't know why I liked the picture. I mean, it was kids on it. Most people were like, well, you're in childcare, so that's probably why you did it. But I'm like, it really had nothing to do with childcare. My childcare situation was over here. Literally everything on this side was childcare. I literally wrote on here, new equipment at all facilities. So to me, at this day, this was childcare over here. This right here, I didn't quite know yet. There's a lot of things you're gonna put on your vision board that may not even make sense today. It may not make sense this time next year. But this makes a lot of sense to me today. How many childcare facilities do I own?
5.
Yeah.
So this makes sense to me today. I can literally go through, you've been to my house in Pearland. Did you go to the Pearland house? You've been to the house in Pearland. You've been to the house in Pearland. When I was looking for a house a few years back, and my realtor, you know, usually it takes people weeks, months to find a house, right? First day out, my realtor, we go to the communities that they have. You know how they have the communities with the model homes. They had, you know, model home 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, right? We walk in the first one, and as soon as I walked in the house, I stopped. I said, nope, this ain't it. And I went to turn around and walk out. Literally walked in 2 steps and turned around and said, this ain't it. And the rep came out that was, you know how they had the little home rep sitting in the house, and she came out, she said, hey honey, what's going on? I said, nah, this is not really what I'm looking for. And she said, well, what are you looking for? So I always had this picture. In my phone. It had been in my phone for a very long time. So I told her, I said, if I could just get half of my vision, I would sell it. Because I knew this right here, I was not in the financial position to get. But I always said, if I could get half my vision. I showed her the picture. I zoomed in to where it was only half the picture. And she walked up to me and she said, honey, go next door. So I said, okay. So I walked next door, and for anybody that's been to the Therland house,
Just like that.
So when you walked in my Pearland house, it didn't look exact. It wasn't exactly with all the molding and everything, but that's what my house looked like that I ended up buying. So I got half of my vision. So what I asked for, I actually got. There's a watch. I'm gonna wrap up saying that by. There's a vision board here that I was very specific and intentional on. That little white Jew hanging down there. I think everybody knows I got that already. This one right here is crazy. This is really crazy. So exactly what I told you guys, this Rolex right here, this Rolex is extremely crazy. I told you guys just go through and cut things that speak to you, right? So I cut this, put it on my board, and in my head, it's like, I ain't never had a Rolex before. I want a Rolex. I want a bust down Rolex. That is what I want. I want a bust down Rolex. So in my head back then, I was putting this on here because I wanted the bust down Rolex. Cut to a few months later, I'm talking to my jeweler, and I was like, okay, yep, I want a bust down Rolex. How much do they cost? I think I want one. And she was like, there, I'm not selling you a bust down Rolex. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, they're ghetto. She said, it declasses the watch. I'm not selling one of those. And I was like, well, bitch, I'll just buy it for somebody else. Like, I want my Rolex. So she goes, first off, she told me the price point. She's like, it costs this much. If they're not done right, the diamonds fall out of them. Rolex won't touch them after they've been iced out, so on and so forth. And she was like, why don't you come down here and try this watch on? I got it. So she sends me the picture of the watch, and I'm like, I don't want that. I'm like, that shit's basic. I don't want it. Because mind you, in my head, I saw bling bling. That's all I wanted was a bust down.
Okay.
So she was like, I think you should start off with the watch I just sent you. It'd be a beginner watch. You know, it's a lower price point. It'll be your introductory Rolex. So I said, nah, whatever. So at this point, I had never even tried on a Rolex. So she said, well, at least come down here and try it on. Let's see how it fits your wrist, because they come in different sizes. Let's see how it fits your wrist. So I went down there, I tried it on, and the watch was $10,000. So she was like, it's 10 grand. It's an amazing price to be an introductory Rolex. I think you should get this one. Start off with this one, wear it, get comfortable with it. This could be your everyday watch. So I said, okay. So I went ahead and bought it. Now I tell you guys that what I do is I hang my vision boards up in my closet. I've always been up in my closet. So about 3 months later, I glanced at my vision board, and I always just glance at things. I would glance at it and be like, oh, okay. I never look at it every day. I'll never tell anybody to look at their vision boards every day. I just always glance at it, which is why I have it in my closet. And I glanced at it, and it's this exact same watch. The exact same watch was sitting on my wrist. If any of you guys were on my live a few months ago when I was showing my vision boards, and I was like, y'all, I want this Rolex watch. I'll put it on my vision board. I'm like, but if you guys don't know, you can't just walk into Rolex and buy a watch. If you do, it's by luck because somebody ordered it and didn't come pick it up. So I showed my vision board to everybody. Just before I launched the vision board party, I was just telling everybody, this is what I thought about this is what I do. Showed them my vision board. Everybody saw the watch on my vision board. A few months later, I'm in Atlanta. One of my phones had broken their iPhone. We go to the Lenox Mall to go to the Apple store to get their phone fixed. It's the only reason we're going to the mall. We leave out of the Apple. We walking down through the mall. We walk past the Rolex store. I pop in. I show the guy a watch on the phone. I was like, hey, you guys ever get this watch? He starts laughing. I said, what funny? He turns to his coworker and he said, show him that watch. So I showed it to him. You know what he told me? He said, I just sold that watch 20 minutes ago. He said, literally just sold that exact watch 20 minutes ago. And I was like, what? He said, yeah. He said, so you know that's not coming in no time soon. You're probably not gonna get that to probably 2028, 2029. You can order it if you want to. I'm like, nah, ordering it would be intentional. I'm not gonna order it. I said, if y'all ever get one, just let me know. So what happens with this is, he said, well, leave your name and your number. If we get one, you have to come in within 24 hours to buy it. I was okay, bet. Left my name, my number. My homeboy was with me. I left his name and numbers. I'm like, if they call me, I might have to just wire you the money. You come get it. So he says, but it ain't coming in no time soon. We probably won't see another one of those till 2027, 2028, unless you order it, whatever. 4 weeks later, I get a phone call from Atlanta, the Rolex store. The lady says, hey, we have a watch. On the roster, there's one like the one you want, but it's a blue one. Do you want it? I said, well, no, I don't want it. She says, well, I think it's gonna be blue. She says, so if you want it, you can have this. I said, I don't want the blue one. I want what's on my vision board. So she goes, all right, well, when it comes in, I'll call you anyway. So I said, okay, bet. So she ends up calling back 4 hours later when the shipment came in. And she said, Mr. Jones, you'll never guess what just happened. I said, what? She said, you want the blackface one, right? I said, yeah. She said, it's here. You have to get that. This was on a Friday night. She said, it's here, but you have to get here within 24 hours to come and get it. So I got on the flight and I went and got the black one. So the exact watch. So I give you guys these examples of things that are happening. So I want you guys to ensure that when you do your board, I don't want you guys to have to look at the exact, it doesn't have to have an exact meaning with you today. You're literally cutting out whatever's actually going to speak to you. If it speaks to you, cut it out.